chose my STEM major panel discussion. So thank you again. I'll just quickly read what we're talking about today. Choosing a major or specialty in science, technology, engineering, or math can be daunting with so many options to choose from. Join us for a panel discussion with professionals about how they plan their career path and what advice they have for students pursuing these industries. So this is why we're here today. And I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jaedda Hall. I am a program coordinator of a few things right now, but what you'll care about today is the STEM Promise program, which is our scholarship program here at TCC. And we're doing a lot to promote the STEM industries, which stand for science, technology, engineering, and math. So that's a little bit about me. Just for some background on how this event even came about, I do frequent check-ins with students in all of our programs, and a lot of students are unmotivated this semester for many reasons. Of course, the pandemic is one of them. But we're realizing it can be very difficult when you are experiencing most of your college interaction online. And we all know STEM can be a very hands-on interactive field. So a lot of our students are discouraged, or maybe they are overwhelmed by the different, for example, disciplines in engineering, and they're not sure which one to pursue. And they're feeling kind of anxious about that. So we had some friends here today, and I'll be telling you who they are very soon, and they'll be introducing themselves. But we have some local professionals who are in the STEM field, and they're going to share their experiences. They're going to share some of their educational background and kind of let you know what their thought process was when they were making the same decisions that you all are making now, as far as your college major and what you may want to do when you graduate. So that's the background on that. And also the format of it's going to be a panel discussion, but I really want you to know this is all about our attendees. So I want you all to get the questions in and ask the questions that you want to know. So I'll definitely kick it off, but I prefer for you all to be interactive during this session. So I'm going to pull up a quick information because I do want to share about our scholarship program in case you don't know about it. Can everybody see my screen? Just give me a virtual thumbs up if you can. Okay, good. All right, so what are we doing today? Again, we are going to be going over quickly the STEM Promise program. You can see here I have some pictures of our panelists today. You'll see them in a few minutes, but we have Abbie Dean, Civil Engineering Analyst at Kimley Horn. We have Martin Joseph, who is the president and CEO of 360 IT Partners. We have Christopher Peebles, a recent chemistry graduate from Virginia Union University and a previous TCC student. Woo woo. We have Katherine, she goes by Katie Smith. She is a research associate at ODU's Virginia Modeling, Analysis, and Simulation Center. You may have heard it as VMASC. So we have some really awesome people here today. We're going to get to know them a lot better during our discussion. So when you're listening to their stories, think about what would you like to know from them and their experience. A lot of these folks up here have had internships and they participated in research studies. So you'll want to know more about how they ended up in their current jobs in their current field. And then we will wrap it up, and we hope to be finished around noon. So thank you all for taking the time to be here on a Friday. Oops. So I just do want to quickly, I won't take up too much time on this, but I do want to tell you what the STEM Promise program is. I have coordinated this program for about 3 years now, and it's very new. It's actually only 4 years old. So every year we pick 20 scholars to attend Tidewater Community College and study in one of our STEM areas. It's a full tuition scholarship, so it pays for all of the students' classes as long as they remain in compliance with that 3.0 GPA. But the goal of the scholarship was to boost and is to boost the number of degrees in the STEM fields. You may have heard talk about how there are just not enough students studying in this area, especially for women and minority students. So this is an initiative to help increase that, to make our STEM workforce right here in Hampton Roads more diverse. So that is the purpose of the scholarship, and we've been doing a great job with this. Who is eligible? So it is ran out of our Women's Center, but anyone can apply for this scholarship. It is intended for new first-time degree-seeking students. So I think we have some high school students here today. So if that's something you're thinking about, our application closes on April 1st, and our next cohort will start in August for the fall semester. So we definitely target those first-time in college students. However, we also have room for our returning students. So if you've taken a break after high school, but you're thinking about coming back to college, or if you're a current TCC student with a limited amount of credits, you may still be eligible for this program. To view the full eligibility requirements, I will put in the chat later our link to our application, just so you can read through it and see if you're eligible. And of course, if you have any questions, you can contact me directly. This is just a quick snapshot of what programs are included. So right now we have 12 programs that our students can study and be funded for. And these programs were included based on the low numbers of women and minority students in these particular programs. We want to increase that. And also these programs have a capacity to accept more students. So, engineering is our most popular. Cybersecurity is becoming very popular in this program. And then we have some other really awesome programs as well. All of this is on our website, by the way. In addition to the money, it's a program because we offer other different services. So for example, I check in with the scholars at least 3 times a semester, one-on-one, to make sure they're doing well. They have everything they need as far as if they need tutoring, or if they are having trouble in a class, or if they need help applying for an internship, or just anything to make sure that they're a well-rounded, successful student. And back in the day, we used to go on trips to actual companies and do tours. Now we're figuring out how we can still do that in a virtual manner, because I think it's important for students to get experience outside of the classroom. Those are just some pictures from some fun times when we visited NASA Langley, Clark Nexon, Steele, VMASC, LifeNet Health, and so on. So we will continue this in a virtual manner until we can get back to getting together in person. And then the last slide is just, where are these students now? The scholarship covers tuition, but it does not cover books. So I'm very adamant about making the students aware of other scholarship opportunities so that they can have money for books and other supplies, constantly trying to engage with companies if they want to donate something for the students to get their books. So you'll see many of our students have gotten internships and other scholarships, and that's all because they have been interactive in our program. And 99% of our students head on to ODU. So the other half, the other 1 or 2%, they end up going to Virginia Tech. So of course we want to diversify where they go, but I mean, ODU has a great cybersecurity program, and Virginia Tech has a wonderful engineering program. So it's not surprising that most of our students end up there. I think the most important thing is that they continue to major in STEM, which means that we did our job here at TCC. All right, so just, feel free to look at that for more information. We do have an application that is pretty hefty, so you want to take your time to do it. We have essay questions, letter of recommendation, resume. It's a very competitive program, so please look into that if you qualify. And I am going to stop sharing and stop talking. I want to give our panelists a chance to introduce themselves. So first on my screen, I have Christopher Peebles. Tell us about you, Chris.
Hello, you guys see me? All right.
Yeah, I can see
How you
you.
guys doing today? My name's Christopher Peebles. I'm a recent graduate of Virginia Union University, and I graduated in the spring of 2020, which makes it seem like it's a long time ago now, but I'm just happy to be here. Just a little bit about myself. As you know, I graduated with a bachelor's in chemistry. Throughout my time at Union, I played collegiate golf, so I had to work around schedules and make sure that golf and education was a priority. In doing so, I was able, while working with Union and my professors there, I was able to do research topics and research programs every summer. And it's kind of crazy because before my freshman year in 2016, I was actually in a STEM program like this, where high school students or first time undergraduate students were able to come on campus and have like an 8-week program where it was focused on building STEM, incentivizing STEM. So in doing so, I was able to create connections through my professors, and in doing so, I was able to have research topics and through my undergraduate life. So it was a really great experience, very positive. I was able to meet a lot of people, do amazing things that the typical undergraduate class format wouldn't push forward as much. I was able to go to DC and present research topics. So it was all around great experience for me. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll have Abbie take the floor.
Hello, everyone. Name is Abbie Dean. I graduated spring 20, COVID grads. Woohoo! I majored in civil and environmental engineering, started at ODU in 2016. Throughout my career at ODU, I was involved in various organizations like NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, American Society of Civil Engineers, Engineering Ambassadors, just a host of things. As well as while I was in college, I had 3 internships at different types of engineering companies, as well as at the state level. And currently, I finished up my engineering internship with Kimley Horn, who's my current employer. So I recently just started with them in August as a full-time hire, stemming out of the internship program. As well as I'm a small business owner on the side. So yeah, I'm involved in the community in various ways. I still, stay in touch with ODU engineering. So if you have any questions pertaining to that, just feel free to ask me. Yep, that's it about me right now.
Thank you. I would like to ask, what is your small business?
It is True Tax Solutions. So tax planning and accounting.
Very relevant during this time, okay?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. I can see Katie next on my screen.
Okay, and you set it up so I should be able to share, right? Let's see.
Yes. Let me know if you're having
There
any.
we go.
Okay.
Should be good. All right. Hopefully I'm on there. My name is Katie Smith, currently a research associate at the Virginia Modeling Analysis and Simulation Center, which is a mouthful. So we just call it VMASC. We recently, well, I guess about a year ago, we got introduced at an event as VSMAC. And so I'm garnishing support. If you think that we should go to VSMAC, I mean, it's up in the air. It's up in the air. Nobody wants this change, but our small team, I think. But it gave us all a laugh. And so we're a part of Old Dominion University. Old Dominion University is in Norfolk. VMASC is actually located, it is not the Tri-City Center, but we're located next door to that building in Suffolk. Not that I go to work these days because of COVID, of course. I've had a lot to do with ODU over my academic career and career. I started there in 2005 as a mechanical engineering major. I graduated in 2008 with a degree in mechanical engineering and a degree in applied mathematics. I graduated again in 2009 with a master's degree in computational applied mathematics. And I'm currently working on a PhD in modeling and simulation. And I hope to have that wrapped up in December of this year. So I'm kind of eclectic. I've done, the math side of things, mechanical engineering, modeling and simulation. So I have experience in 2 different engineering programs at ODU. And then a fully different, the math department is under the College of Sciences. After I finished in 2009, I worked for about 2 years as an aerospace engineer at NASA Langley Research Center. I did mechanisms modeling and simulation, so simulating mechanisms for different things like satellites and things like that, throwing a crew capsule and having it land in a giant pool of water and figuring out what was going to happen there. After that, I went back to ODU and I taught math for almost a decade. In that time, I kind of started working on my PhD, got involved in more of the research side of things. And then almost 2 years ago now, I moved back over to VMASC or I guess I moved to VMASC. I hadn't been there before. And I'm part of the digital shipbuilding team. So we are part of the effort to help revitalize the maritime industry in Hampton Roads, which is a big part of almost everything we do. And so making sure that some of these new technologies that you're using, virtual reality, augmented reality, you hear about machine learning and artificial intelligence, all of those things, helping those kind of move into the shipbuilding industry to get everything digitalized. So this is sort of a summary slide. I talked a little bit about most of this stuff. I do a lot of network modeling and things like that. This here is my team over at VMASC. This is our digital shipbuilding team. So I know Jaedda knows Jess, but we built a boat and it sank. And then I spent a lot of time with my family, and really I just like numbers and making and building things. And so one of the best parts about my job is that I can make and build things at work and just play with numbers. All right.
That's awesome. I was still cracking up about VMASC, but okay.
Yeah, VMASC, that was actually this event, and we all kind of went, wonder why they didn't go with VMASC.
Okay, well, thank you, Katie. I don't know if some of our STEM scholars on the line remember, we visited VMASC probably right before the pandemic happened. We had a great time, and a lot of our students weren't really familiar with modeling and simulation. So it definitely opened their eyes to a new industry that they can explore. So thank you. All right, Martin.
Hey, good morning, Jaedda. Such a pleasure to be with you and your panelists this morning. Thank you so much. Let me find my file here.
Oh, take your time.
Yeah, here we go. Let me go ahead and share this with everybody. And let's see. Can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, good morning. So I'm Martin Joseph. I'm the founder and CEO of 360 IT Partners. Last year, we celebrated our 25th year in business, and it's been quite a ride. A lot of fun building a business from really nothing. And, so I'm a product of the Virginia school system, graduated from Greenwood High School a long time ago. And, from there, I was in a position where I couldn't afford to go to college, but I wanted to go desperately. So I got a minority grant to go to Norfolk State University, and I took advantage of a $1,000 minority grant scholarship. So anyway, that got me started. And, a few years later after that, I got my degree in marketing and business. And then I went to work for a small mom and pop computer company while I was going through college. and literally learned everything there was to know about the IBM, the PC. There was a time when the IBM Selectric typewriter was being replaced by the PC with the 8086, 8088 processors, and literally was at the ground of, in the beginning of what was the ground floor of the microcomputer industry. And from there, it's been so much fun the next 34 years in my career. So I've been in the industry a long time, founder of 360. My company provides IT department as a service for small and medium business clients. We've got some pretty impressive clients, including both Norfolk International and Newport News International airports. We've got some major shipbuilding repair companies. We deal with nonprofits. We have medical. We do legal. We're insurance industries. We deal with churches. And so we become their IT department. I've been awarded the Inside Business Magazine's Top 40 Under 40, the Entrepreneurial Excellence Award, and my company was named the Small Business of the Year for the entire region of Hampton Roads by the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce. We've also been awarded the Roaring 20, which is the fastest growing companies in Hampton Roads, for 6 years. We've also been the Fantastic 50, which is the 50 fastest growing companies in the state of Virginia. We've been voted best places to work in Virginia and Hampton Roads. And we've been listed in Inc. Magazine's Inc. 5000 6 consecutive years as the fastest privately held companies in the United States. I'm the immediate past chairman of the board for the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce. I'm the past president of Entrepreneurs Organization, and I also graduated civic leadership in 2015. And it's a pleasure to be with all of you today.
That's awesome. Congratulations on all of the success your business has garnered. That's really amazing.
Thank you.
We have 2 small business owners on the line. So I think that's also good for us to somehow in this conversation talk about entrepreneurship too later on in the discussion. And also I'm a 2-time Norfolk State graduate. So yes, fellow alum. All right. So I'm going to kick off with a question, but I think we have about 30 some odd people on the line. So I definitely want to make time for questions available from the attendees, but I'll kick off one question. And this is kind of focused on what the theme of today is. You talked about all of your wonderful positions, but I would like to know what actually sparked your interest in STEM. What was that moment, or if there was a moment where you said, this is what I want to do, and kind of pursued from there? If anyone can jump in and answer that.
I'll get started, Jaedda. For me, it was really just finding technology, and you talk about how somebody gets into a certain industry. I think the certain industry got into me when I discovered how incredible technology was. Building computers, learning how to fix them, learning how to assemble them, learning how to load software, build networks. It was just something that I felt very passionate about doing, and later, was able to leverage that to my ability to, learn as much as I can from this job that I had, and learning from a mentor who taught me everything about technology that I needed to know at the time, and later getting enough confidence to go out and start my own business, and really pursue my dream of being an entrepreneur while owning a technology company.
Thank you.
I'll go next. I think my interest really sparked in high school. I originally wanted to be a vet, and I got 2 dogs and decided that's not what I want to do. And then I had an opportunity to shadow an engineer. It was a mechanical engineer working for DuPont. And while I was there, I had a lot of questions, a lot of curiosity. And ironically, I liked engineering. It's very interesting, but not the mechanical side. So from there, I did a lot of research, watched a lot of YouTube videos, and tried to, cure that curiosity I had for engineering. And there's so many things you can do in engineering. So I just had to nail down, okay, what am I passionate about? What interests me in day-to-day life? And from there, looking at different infrastructures. So civil engineering, very broad, but what I do is basically roads, highways, anything that you could physically see on the roadway, as well as underground stuff that you can't see. So that seemed like a common thing in the world, is traffic and how you get from point A to point B. So that's really where my interest peaked. And then once I went to start visiting colleges and seeing the different engineering departments, I started to meet other people that just had a world of knowledge and really just fed into my curiosity on engineering. So I think for me, it was more of a curiosity thing mixed with some exposure and, opportunities where I could talk to other engineers.
That's definitely a good point, especially the shadowing. I know a lot of people might think, oh, I don't really know how to approach somebody and just ask them if I can job shadow them, but it happens all the time. And I think that is a great way. It sounds like that was kind of how you decided what type of engineering to go. 'Cause
Exactly.
there's so many different
There's
ways
so
you
many
can go.
different ones. It was more of a trial and error. I saw what I didn't like. And then from what I didn't like, I tried to pick out, okay, what pieces did I like? And try to piece that together and see where that corresponds to the various types of engineering.
Great advice. Okay.
I'll go next.
Sure.
What sparked my interest in STEM and chemistry in particular was in high school for me. I always had like a curiosity of like answering the fundamental questions of like, the universe and stuff like that. So that gravitates more to science and math. But, during my my high school years, I was also homeschooled. So I was taking online homeschool classes, but I was able to go to TCC for my senior year of high school. And I was able to take a chemistry class, just a general chemistry class. And I found it very interesting, and it sparked a more of a passion in me to pursue a chemistry degree. And then once I graduated from high school, I applied to Virginia Union, and that's basically how it took off. So I've just decided from that then and there that chemistry was my my interest and my passion. So yeah.
That's a good point. I know a lot of students kind of struggle when it's time to make your schedule, like if you have electives or just anything you need to fill in. And I would just say, don't be like just random about it. Have some type of like interest in your electives, because you might, like Chris, find out what you want to do through a class, which is great. So thanks, Chris.
All right, so I guess that leaves me. Mine's slightly a horror story because math sort of chased me into STEM. So I really liked problem solving and I really liked math, but I had this sort of vision in my head that mathematicians were people who basically worked in closets and forgot to eat lunch. And we're never home on time for dinner and things like that because they're doing all these equations and stuff. And then these equations don't actually relate physically to the real world. And that was my thing, right? I wanted to solve real problems for real people, or be taking something apart or putting something together or building something that people could use. And so my dad was a civil engineer, a structural engineer. He actually did the structural work for the Ted Constant Convocation Center. So he did a lot of buildings and things like that. I didn't like buildings because they don't move. And so I was like, okay, well, what else is there? So I said, well, mechanical, that seems cool. I had the opportunity there's a program at ODU where it's for female engineers. They come in the summer before their freshman year, and they get to kind of rotate through some things and have experiences. And I was a part of that program. And I remember there was a guy who took a computer apart in front of us and said, okay, now put it back together. And sort of from there, I was like, oh, okay, we can build things. And so kind of pairing working in labs with understanding, the equations that actually related to those objects that I could put my hands on. And now being able to talk to people and saying, okay, I understand you have this technical problem that you can't solve. How can we, from a research perspective, come in and help you solve that in a way that's meaningful to you?
Thank you. I love how you said math chased you.
Yeah, it's just like those nightmares you have, and it's like it was my life for like 4 years. I mean, I like math, but I was very scared to be a mathematician. And I don't think that should be so scary. You can be an applied mathematician, and that's a thing. I just didn't know that existed.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So I'm going to pause because we do have a question in the chat, and it's geared towards Chris. The question is, what do you want to do with your chemistry degree in the future, and what intrigued you about chemistry?
Oh yeah, I saw that question too, but I was, I didn't want to like interrupt anybody. So can you repeat it again, just so I know again?
What are you doing now with your chemistry degree or in the future, and what intrigued you about chemistry?
What am I doing now? I'm currently trying to get into a master's program. So that's, I guess, what I'm trying to do now. So I'm either looking for biochemistry or I'll say mostly biochemistry at the moment. So because most of my research topics that, surprisingly were biology focused research internships. So I do have I do enjoy the biology side of things. Since chemistry and biology have like you can like it the one way and then hate it the other way and hate the one thing, and so it's very funny that I enjoy both aspects of biology and chemistry. But the second part of your question, what sparked my curiosity in STEM or in chemistry, was more or less the idea where I wanted to figure out, like I wanted to figure out like more of the why questions of chemistry and stuff like that, because during my my TCC, I was able to go to TCC to do a chemistry program, and I also did biology and other courses, but chemistry just stuck with me more, and it just resonated with me more, and the way how I don't know how my brain works. I don't know, but I don't know. It was more just I just like the experiments. I like the very intricate problem solvings you had to do in order to in chemistry degree in the chemistry field. So yeah, that was more or less why I
would
chose
imagine that type of chemistry degree is almost similar to engineering, where it's so broad that, like you said, you have to participate in those internships. They're so important to kind of find out what you like and what you don't like, kind of like what Abbie said earlier. So kudos to you for getting that internship experience while you were in school, because that's definitely going to help you with your graduate degree and then, landing that job that you want. So awesome. Thank you. I'm going to just pause and see, does anyone have a question before I go to my next question? Feel free to unmute and ask. Hopefully it won't be too crazy with everybody up here, but I'll just pause for a second and see if we have a question. Okay. And also the chat is open. I'm trying to check that as much as possible. So feel free to put a question in the chat. So my next question would be, I just wanted to throw in like a coronavirus question, of course, but how has your industry been impacted by the coronavirus? Or if you want to speak personally about your particular role or company, I just kind of want to know, how has that impacted your work?
I'll go ahead. Well, it was with COVID, my senior year, before I had the great opportunity to present a research at the emerging researcher conference. It's called the ERN, and like is a national conference in DC. And what happened was this is a personal story of mine, where this happened in February. This happened in February 6th. So I was able to present my research topic regarding discovering a new bacteriophage at the conference, and it was a great experience. I definitely recommend you going out and presenting research, because you learn a lot, and you learn be comfortable with talking in a public setting more, because that was one of my struggles, because I was always shy about talking, doing public speeches and stuff like that. So with COVID, it literally what happened with that, after I did the internship and presented my research, I was supposed to continue it, my current research topic on discovering a new bacteriophage, because we were supposed to annotate the DNA, which means study its DNA structure and stuff like that, so we can identify if it was a new variant, a new bacteriophage. But what happened was when COVID hit, which was it happened February 8th, and then the week afterwards, I was about to continue it, and then spring break happened, and then COVID. So it just paused everything. I was unable to continue it. But that for me, it was I was very fortunate enough to be able to, present my research at the conference right before COVID hit. So that was just a story of mine that, is I'm very grateful for, and also just for the COVID aspect of things.
Yeah, Jaedda, I'd like to chime in if you don't mind. So, how incredible is technology today that, enables us to be able to, continue to work. And I see work as an activity. It's not a place. So thank God for that. What we are, I've got 9,000 square feet of space, over here off of Interstate 264 near Topgolf. You guys have probably seen the sign on my building, but, we've got maybe 6 or 7 workers. From the 50 workers that we've got on my team, we've got 5 or 6 that are reporting to the office, and the balance of our workforce is working remotely from home. And, I know our clients are so grateful for us. Many of them, we were able to set up business continuity plans well in advance of the coronavirus hitting. And so this pandemic, really just caused us to pivot a little bit and, move the resources from in the office, to wherever they felt like they could operate and do their work. So, we find ourselves very fortunate, to be in the position to continue to operate and serve our clients. Of course, we've got to use safety precautions when we go out in the field, but, I really liken my team to be true heroes of this pandemic. I know the healthcare heroes are amazing, as well as the other ones, but you know what? We're enabling businesses to continue to operate and be successful. So that is very, it's very gratifying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can definitely agree on that point that really from a business standpoint, it's been about pivoting and seeing opportunities where they weren't before. I know here at Kimley Horn, we have variety of practices, but I'm in particular in the transportation planning and transportation operations. So a lot of what we do depends on what's going outside and the time of day and, the trips and where people are going. And we can look at an example at Hampton Roads. So when COVID happened, or in the beginning of COVID, everyone stopped going out. There was no driving, schools were closed. And what I really do is I look at, traffic and the flow of traffic from point A to point B. And one of the projects I work on is signal planning. So, looking at signals and how to optimize signals. So in a given roadway system, as a driver, you can get through in a, cohesive manner. So really COVID kind of put a hit on, going out there in the field and seeing how traffic operates in order to go ahead with our traffic planning. So in that sense, we've had to pivot on using a lot of historical count data, a lot of models and simulations. But in another sense, we've had other practices emerge from COVID. We've seen our clients have different needs than before. So we've been able to capitalize on that aspect. But from the, I guess, civil engineering side, we've had to take a step back and kind of look at, okay, is there a different way we can capture this data? Or is there a different way with COVID we can implement new planning strategies for VDOT or a private company that previously we wouldn't have looked at? So I think in a sense, COVID has definitely forced everyone to think differently, to plan differently. And I see it as a good thing as someone that's new in the industry, that in varying ways, COVID in a sense has jumped us forward into different realms that we wouldn't have seen before.
That is so true. I mean, I think all of us, no matter what we're doing, we've had to rethink. This has given us that time to slow down and rethink about how we've been approaching different situations. So I didn't think about that traffic piece. So that's a good point.
Yeah, and I think kind of piggybacking on that with my current research being in how do we the digitalization and implementing, new technologies in the maritime industry. A lot of times we're working with the government and, they've got safety standards and protocols that are dated, 1980, 1975 sometimes. And so it's becoming more of a thing where it used to be, if I was going to teach a class in data analytics, I would go to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which was where I was before everything shut down. So I was teaching a class in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I came home and everything basically completely shut down. So I left for New Hampshire and I never went back to work. So I've been working from home since then, which is kind of interesting. But it kind of allows them to see, okay, well, how do we try to transition some of these meetings where we're not just flying 100 people out to meet in person, or we're not, and what they're realizing is it's saving money and time. And so in some extents, that's kind of accelerating some of the work that we've been, working to do is, because anytime somebody's going out, we've talked to a lot of businesses that are doing ship inspections before they do maintenance or whatever on board. And people have to go and their employee has to quarantine for 2 weeks before they can get on board and do the ship inspection. So can we send them a 3D scanner or something like that to get the visual instead of having that person quarantined for 2 weeks? And they're doing that, every single project they have these issues. So it's kind of bringing some of those things to the forefront. And then on the other hand, of course, it's slowed a lot of things down. But that's kind of where it's affected the work that we're doing.
Thanks for sharing. I'm going to just take a pause and see if anyone has a question before I go to our next question that we had on our list. Does anyone have I do quickly want to read a comment. Thanks, Chris. I am too fascinated with biology and chemistry, but can't decide where to focus as far as a career. So that was from Janine. So she's thanking Chris for answering the question.
Can I respond real quick?
Yeah, sure.
I would say for you, I don't know how far along in your undergraduate life that you are in at the moment, but if you are a freshman or sophomore, I'd highly encourage you to keep on branching out and keep on trying to see what in biology or what in chemistry that you are that you feel passionate about more, or what you want to explore deeper into. So if it's with being able to do a research topic, I highly advise you to want to explore talk to your professors about it, explore what they found interested in chemistry or biology. So that's something that I just wanted to add to that.
No, that's a good point. A lot of people they think of their professors as just giving the assignments and, just grading the work, but they have a background in that industry. So it's probably a good idea to even just ask them, like, how did you get into the industry? Because a lot of your professors may work part-time in the industry or have before. So that's a good point.
To add to that, I know you said 99% of the students at TCC transition to ODU, which is great. And I will say, I can speak from the engineering side of things, having a good relationship with your professors goes a long way. I know there's some professors that, we would talk on personal notes and I would just hear their story on essentially how they got from, starting off being interested in engineering or just their transition in college to where they are now. So I think, they have a lot of advice and a lot of experience that even as a student or going forth, you could, really get a lot of benefits from.
Thank you. Sorry, my mic is acting up. Oh, we do have a question in the chat for Abbie and Martin. Benjamin wants to know, when and how did you decide to start up a business? Great question.
Well, Ben, I'll take it. So it was pretty interesting. I was working, as I mentioned before, for this small computer company, and I'd worked there for 3.5 years, and finally got my degree from Norfolk State, and invited my mentor and boss to go out to lunch with me on a Friday. And so we sat down, and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm really enjoying working for the company." But now that I've got my degree, I want to know if you can make it a little bit more lucrative for me to continue to stay here and work for you. And he indicated that he was really happy with the way things were going, and that that he really wasn't interested in making a change or giving me a raise. And so that Monday morning, I come to work, and his middle son Jim, who used to work at the upholstery shop and doesn't know anything about computers or business, comes to the office that morning, and my boss and mentor made an announcement that his son is now the president of the company. And so I saw the writing on the wall, and realized that blood is thicker than water, and that if I wanted to continue in a career in the IT industry, it was probably going to be best to go out on my own. And so I did, and there was a customer of mine. His name was Tom, and Tom and I got together, and we decided to partner and start our own technology company. And so that's how it began.
That is a crazy story. On my side, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit about me. Even as a kid, I always just trying to, do something. I was one of those kids that had like a lemonade stand and was selling lemonade. In high school, I actually started an online drop shipping business, selling sneakers. So I always was just doing something on my own outside of, my everyday job. I think what has really driven me to start a business, and I guess in the accounting and tax industry, is I've always wanted to really know, how does money work? What makes money move? Other than the actual dollar, there's a lot of things that go behind money. Money sometimes can equal power. So I was always really interested in how that works, and that goes hand in hand with engineering, because it's numbers, it's applying numbers. So that's really where that came from. I think when I started my business, I started this past year, but looking back on it, wish I started it when I got in college. I think there was plenty of opportunities to plug in. I previously was always giving financial advice or helping with tax planning with my friends or family, and just, trying to teach people what I've learned and what I've researched about taking advantage of a system that's already in place and making it work for you. No one likes to pay taxes. No one likes to pay more than what they have to. But if you understand how that works and you understand how money works, you can really just make it work for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point for people to realize too, is that you don't have to be siloed into one career choice, especially not these days when there's so many opportunities for what we would call a side hustle, or just if you have other interests, you can make profit off of that. So I love that you are a civil engineer by day, but you also have that, opportunity to do something else. So thanks for sharing that.
Excuse me?
Yep.
I had a question about that.
Yes.
I guess my question is, I understand that a lot of students have a lot of general ed courses that they have to take, but I was wondering if you thought financial responsibility and education should be part of that. I kind of feel like it used to be taught in high school, but then they took it out. And I just wanted to know what you thought about that.
I 100% agree. I think, in college, I was required to take public speaking and courses like that, but I 100% agree that some sort of financial literacy course needs to be required. I know my friends now that are graduating are getting 401k plans and getting benefits, and they don't understand them. They don't understand how they work and how to maximize what your job is giving you. So I think across the board, starting probably like in middle school, you need to, there needs to be courses in place that teach people the basics of finances and, how to understand, this is the money I'm working with, how to maximize it, and just have a knowledge and understanding in general. If you don't understand something, it's hard to make it worth your while. But even in school, going through school, most college students, broke college student, that's what everyone says. So even in that realm, there's ways that as a college student, you can learn the plan and use, the resources in front of you to, go a long way, honestly.
Yeah, I'd like to add, just when I was teaching in the math department, not that we taught financial literacy, but what I would notice is that there was a general education course I taught, and one of the things we taught was complex interest, and how to buy a car, basically, and what that means and all those terms. And then there was another class that I taught for people who were going to be certified to be K-6 teachers. And so it was a junior level class. They had to take 2 of these math classes. They had to take 2 science classes at that level in order to teach at those levels. And one of the things in that was how to buy a house and what the terms meant. And there were a lot of people who kind of either glazed over those topics or left them out. And when I developed the online content for those at ODU, I left them both in. Of course, whoever's teaching them can remove them. But to me, it was always important, even just to touch on it and to tell people, when I bought my first house, I didn't know what they were saying. I didn't know what all those terms were. And so it's not embarrassing to ask. But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, I went to school, I went to college, I've got a good job, and you should, if the person who's giving you a loan is unwilling to answer your questions, you should have an understanding of where your money's going. And so I would always kind of add that in because I felt that there was that gap. Of course, I couldn't touch all the students going through ODU, but at least the ones who came through my class, I wanted to emphasize, just ask, and that way you'll understand, so you don't end up stuck with a balloon loan or something because you were too afraid to ask a question. So that's my, I think it's very, very important. I'd have to agree with Abbie.
Absolutely. And just a plug here, TCC is partnering with Town Bank to offer a free financial literacy series next month. So I'll be emailing you all the flyers on March 23rd and 25th. We've been talking about this, exactly what you all are saying, how, especially now during the pandemic, a lot of people have to adjust their budgets, and maybe someone in the household lost income. So it's so important for us to understand what's going on with our money. So thank you for mentioning that. Do we have any other questions? I'm checking the chat too. Thank you. I think we did have a question. We had a question for Martin. Do you think you will reduce your real estate footprint now that COVID has forced teleconferencing and direct networking?
That's an entrepreneurial mind right there. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. My partner group and I have already decided that we're going to probably cut down about half the office space that we currently have. Definitely try to leverage some of that cost savings. And then not only that, we are even hiring new people. We're actively hiring. So if you guys know of anybody who's got experience in the IT field, who maybe can do help desk, we're looking for IT managers, and we're also looking for network operations center people. So keep that in mind. But our last hire is a gentleman who lives in Texas, and he's going to be working remotely for my company full time in Texas. I've got another worker that's in Michigan. So remote jobs are out there. So be aware of that.
That's amazing. Listen out, all the IT and cyber majors out there, definitely.
I have a question for Martin. So when you are hiring entry-level help desk people, are you focusing more on their certifications or their experience? If they're career switchers such as myself, would you recognize their earlier career? How would you go about hiring?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do look at experience. We remember when we talk about how, I didn't get into technology got into me. We look for those people that have that passion for, being involved in building networks. And, we find that people who are going to be good in our industry are people they're building their own networks at home. They're learning as much as possible. They have a thirst for learning. But I tell you what, I'm desperately looking for women to become a part of the technology industry. We struggle really to get women applicants. And, we've had many interns come through our company that were able to come in and show us what they're capable of doing. We were really impressed with them as a person and individual and their skill set. And we've made them job offers. We'd love to be able to build a partnership with TCC that way. I know we're currently working with the ECPI. That's more of a technical institution, and a trade school. But you know what? Hey, if somebody's got the skills, we'd love to talk to them about it.
Sounds great. I will be in touch.
All right, super. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I have a question for Katie. Usually when you hear about modeling and simulation, I don't know if this is just me, but it's more so focused on the military or Department of Defense. So I just wanted to know if you could share ideas or I guess projects or anything that you've seen in your industry that people may not connect to modeling and simulation. It seems like a lot of my students aren't really familiar with that area of engineering.
Yeah, so I think you're right, where you see a lot of training simulations. Those are kind of the things that are really visual and people can understand easily, and so they get highlighted. Another one that gets highlighted is game development a lot. You'll see people getting a degree in modeling simulation. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go work for a computer game company making games. And that field is actually very, very competitive. And a lot of times, you need an art background and 3D modeling and things like that. But so for modeling and simulation, the way I think about it, and the reason I'm passionate about it is that to me, it's the perfect intersection of a field of application, which could be anything you're interested in, the mathematics that explains why that field of application works, and then enough computer science so that you can enable that mathematical model to actually produce real data and simulate what's happening in that field. So for example, when I was working at NASA, I built a model of a motor that was going to turn a mirror on a satellite. So the mirror was going to catch the light and direct it into the optics path. And there were, requirements for that motor. So I modeled that. Currently, me and my research partner are working on a lot of supply chain and logistics things. So when you look at even the big heavy hitter companies in the area like Huntington Ingalls, when they look at their supply base, they look at their first level of suppliers. But especially with COVID and hurricanes and all of these things that are affecting our coastal populations, what happens to the supplier that's, 3 layers deep? when you can't get enough steel. And so how can we model those networks and determine which of those dependencies are the most vulnerable, so we can help shore up those industries by providing critical training to the workforce, or just recruiting more people into that industry, or whatever it may be, improving processes, but modeling those industries so that we can show them, hey, if you put money here, it's going to be way more valuable than if you put it over here. So there's just a couple examples, and there's many, many more.
Wow, thank you.
Can I tack on to what Katie had to say?
Sure.
In fact, spot on, Katie. Absolutely. I would encourage all of you who are, looking at your career path to look in the backyard that what we have here at Hampton Roads, all of our assets, all the incredible companies that are here. The future is truly in offshore wind energy. At some point in 2026, we will have the largest offshore wind farm on the East Coast of the United States. It is going to create 12,000 jobs. So, from now until 2026 and beyond, because I don't think they're going to stop at 220 turbines, they're going to continue to grow that. So there's 27,000 acres 27 miles off the shore of Virginia Beach is where these turbines are being built. And you got to imagine it's going to require, a lot of logistics, like Katie mentioned, but it's also going to require, people in STEM fields, manufacturing of these wind turbines, getting them transported out into the ocean. It's going to take a lot of people to be able to, to make this successful. So, shipbuilding and repair is another one. You know what? There's lots of STEM jobs in shipbuilding and repair. This is the hotbed of the shipbuilding and repair industry in the United States. We've got Huntington Ingalls. We've got companies like BAE, Technico, East Coast Repair. They're huge employers, and they have high-paying jobs. So I think it's important for everybody to realize that. And the other thing is, if you look a little further into the future, technology is going to reset everything. There's people that are futurists that are talking about how, the people that are in the hands-on jobs are going to be the ones that continue into the future. The electricians, the plumbers, the pipe fitters, the people that actually do physical labor. Their jobs are not going to be replaced by technology. But there's a lot of medical, legal, all sorts of other industries where technology is really going to disrupt those industries, and it's going to be more difficult for people to find jobs into the future, because when you raise the minimum wage, employers start to think about, wow, I might be able to do this cheaper by just automating this process and not hiring people. So anyway, this is really something that everyone needs to really think about as they consider what career path they want to choose.
Definitely a good point. You want to think about that. And also, I love how you mentioned our area is just a hotbed for STEM careers. So, we have the shipyard, we have NASA, we have Amazon in Northern Virginia. But yes, like Martin said, definitely think about how your job could potentially be replaced in the future, because we're moving pretty quickly. So good point. Do we have any questions? If you want to unmute and just ask a question, please feel free to do so. I'm checking the chat too.
Just a small question, I would say, based off of his question. What would you say would be like the careers you would look out for at being risks of this? And then also, what careers do you think are being like beneficial in the future in this sense?
So I'm not sure I was clear on your first question.
What do you think, like the jobs, at least for engineering, what do you think are gonna like start to decline?
No, not at all. In fact, I believe, it takes talent for people to be engineers. Like they're the creators. So folks like Abbie, she's in a great role where she's at, with Kimberly Horn. They're a well-respected company. In fact, I would even challenge her to learn as much as she can there, and then potentially look out and go out on her own, because she does have the entrepreneurial drive. So no, I tell you what, here's the thing. If you find something that you're truly passionate about, you should really, learn as much as you can about that. If it's something that can be applied to a career, and it's something that's going to, really, help you wake up every morning and be excited about what you do. Hell, I wake up every morning, I'm excited about, creating opportunities for people. You know what? I've wore every hat in my company, and now I'm in a position where, I can be a little bit more strategic and help other people. And so that's what I'm passionate about. But you got to find what sparks that fire within you, that passion, and you really need to pursue it. And you need to be around people that can really help bring you up and uplift you and encourage you. So, maybe it could be an internship somewhere. Maybe you get involved with, I think Abbie, God, she was on fire talking about all the different organizations that she was involved in. And the more people you get to know, the more opportunities that create. So, there's two necessary things that are important for anybody to do business or do a transaction with anybody. That's even making a job offer, right? Or any kind of simple business transaction. They got to trust you and they got to like you. If there's no like and there's no trust, there's no deal. Okay. And so those are the most important things that you have to have. So, build relationships that are with people that you like and that people that like you, so that it's going to create opportunity. They're people that like you want to see you succeed. And so there's the last thing I want to put in all of you is there's an absolute power to being positive. Positive power is unbeatable. And I've seen so many examples in my lifetime where positive power has just helped me grow my business. Everybody wants to be around a winner. Nobody wants to be around the person that's making excuses or saying it's somebody else's fault. You all need to take responsibility for your own self and your own emotional feelings and just be positive. And I promise you that if you stay positive in your lifetime and you look at glass half full rather than glass half empty, your glass will be full.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I know one thing that has been driven home to me here at Kimley Horn is relationships. Our external relationships, our internal relationships, every decision to a certain extent is based off a relationship that you have with a person. So even if you don't know them, but starting the basis of that relationship. But to answer your question about, I guess from my perspective, the engineering avenue that could be a hotbed, I would say I work in the planning side, but I also have work in the information and technology side of transportation. So that's smart cars, Tesla as an example. I would say that's probably a hotbed for at least civil engineering in particular of 10 years from now, who knows how many cars will be driving around where we're not actually driving. So I would say look into some interest there. If you have any questions or interest as far as, what's going to take off next in engineering, I guess.
To even go further, just on the, life science aspect of things, since just, in the current times we're in a pandemic, I mean, think about the feedback or the ramifications of it and how it's going to be able to create jobs for people who are in the biology field, the chemistry field, creating new jobs in that sort of way. I don't know if people know, Dr. Fauci, he's an epidemiologist. And I mean, I can only imagine how many, jobs that were created in the field of, creating the vaccine and trying to slow down the spread of COVID and, the jobs that are being produced and the future jobs that, that are going to be produced in that field. So, just on the life science, the chemistry, physics, biology, those aspects is very important that you look at it in that way too.
That's a good point. Lots of jobs, like you said, were created just from the pandemic, and we look at it in a negative way, but a lot of people are actually getting employed and learning about new areas that they might want to pursue. So good point. I had a follow-up question about how you all were mentioning relationships and building relationships. What advice would you give, and anyone can answer this, but what advice would you give for building those relationships during the pandemic when we're kind of isolated and siloed? There's no networking events going on, and there's no career fairs at the colleges. How can these students overcome that, or are there any other ways that they may need to consider to network?
So I would definitely say start with your professors. A lot of times professors will offer office hours or, I don't know, I'm not sure what they're doing in the pandemic. I know when I used to teach virtually, that I would, have office hours by appointment. So if you have a question about something in their class or something like that, you go to office hours, go talk to them on Zoom one-on-one if they'll allow you to make an appointment. And a lot of them, like I think Chris mentioned, are working in that field in a research capacity. And especially in this area with such a large Navy presence, there's a lot of government contracting in academia. So I know personally, now that I'm on the research only side and that I don't teach anymore, that I work with a lot of companies, especially small companies that are getting these government contracts, and we're supporting them in things like that. So there's a lot of work in those areas if your professors are active researchers, and that can help. And then there's some other things where there's smaller consortiums. I'll have to email Jaedda the name of it. There's a group it's the HRIC. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they do Tech Tuesdays. And so they're having people, I did the one for December and talked about digital shipbuilding, but they've got every Tuesday, they've got one for cloud computing. They usually have these all together as a conference that they would charge for. And I believe right now they're kind of offering them for free, and they're kind of trying to stimulate local business involvement. So I'm sure that the guy who runs them would love to have students in there asking questions of the speakers and things like that. So kind of some of those small starter organizations might be a good place to start networking. And then professional organizations like the American Society of Naval Engineers is one. I know somebody mentioned NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers, Society of Women Engineers. All these groups are moving things virtual somewhat, and they have presence on campuses, but they also have national presences, and sometimes, local chapters and things like that. And I know ASNE has a very large chapter of local professionals here, and they do a monthly virtual dinner still. And they love to have students. If you're interested at all in naval engineering, I'll drop my email in the chat. Just send me an email and I can get you hooked into going to their dinners. And they usually just let students come for free. And so just kind of a place to talk to and meet people.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Getting involved in different organizations is definitely the route I took, and it seems to have really paid off in that sense. But when I think about like as a student, it's kind of like you're a deer in headlights in a sense, because everything's so new. So thinking back, some of the advice I got as a student on how to network and build those relationships was just reaching out. Saying, hey, I'm interested in X, Y, and Z. What do you think about this? I've learned very quickly in college that people like talking about themselves and like talking about what they've accomplished. So if you get them on a topic that you're interested in and they like to talk about, that's another way. I think, as you mentioned with COVID, it is definitely harder than usual to interact with people. So I've tried really hard and been mindful about my interactions just not being transactional. Hey, there's a submittal, can I get this, that, and the third, but more organically, asking people how they're doing, making sure that, besides what you need from them from a work standpoint, connecting on another level. And I think as students, you're around a lot of people, well, maybe not now, but you're in environments virtually where there might be a whole list of people in a participation tag that you've never heard of. Well, just sending them a message on the side saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. Can we connect on X, Y, and Z? So really just going out, not always waiting for someone to approach you to connect is, what my advice for that would be. Another thing that I always tell people is please try to get an internship. Internships, I haven't seen not benefit anyone in any way. Even if it wasn't a good internship, you still learn something from it. So even if you're a freshman, there are definitely internships for freshmen all the way up into being a junior and senior. So that's definitely another way to connect and build those relationships.
Even to add on to her points, and just like for a personal thing, I was able to interact with my professors really well, and I worked with them majority of my undergraduate career, and it's very important now because since I'm going to trying to go to get a master's, going to a master's program, it's very important, to get the references, letters of references from them, so like it'd be different if it's like it'd be the difference between a good reference and just a generic reference. It has they can say more about you and say more things that put you in a positive light, and or see in colleges that for colleges to see in you that you're more than just what's written down on a resume or something like that. So it's very important to connect with your professors. It's very important to, as said earlier, to reach to do internships. I know it's going to be very different now because of COVID, but even connecting to new people that you will probably never meet in person, or reaching out, knowing people that work in particular fields and working at jobs, you will learn a lot about, like being by yourself, after the next steps and what you need to accomplish. So it's very important to, have those communications with your professors.
And also, Chris, I know you mentioned that you were part of a STEM group when you were in school. So, I mean, like the STEM Promise program, other programs that may be available at the college, that's a great way for you to get connected, because we do have events that the students are sometimes required to attend. Hopefully they want to, but they're required to attend, where you can connect with professionals and learn about those internships. So definitely good advice to join a club. We have engineering club, cybersecurity club, computer science club, all at TCC. So just make sure you're joining these clubs, even if you're not sure what you want to contribute, but just to be a part of something and get connected. So thank you for sharing that.
And I think you want to find the people who are really passionate to talk about stuff too, right? I think there was a question in the chat about mathematics, and I'm going to swing that answer into this just to make sure that that question gets heard. But I personally, when I was younger, had some pretty severe social anxiety that basically went undiagnosed as I was the quiet, weird kid. And so I always really liked math, and everybody just thought that I was just kind of this kid who liked numbers that were detached from everything. And because I wasn't able to vocalize and talk about that in a way that made sense to people, it was when I finally got into organizations and was able to talk to people who had problems that they were applying mathematics to, even if they didn't realize it, that really started to kind of help and spark that interest. And so if you look for the people who are practicing those things and really get excited about talking about that, I went from being an aerospace engineer at NASA who was really, really quiet to teaching math. So I'm speaking in front of 40 students, for however many hours a week, that's crazy. The kid with social anxiety is going to go talk for a living. But I found that when I was talking about things that I was passionate about, that I was better at it, and I could communicate, and it came much easier that way. And so I think, to talk about how you're marrying mathematics to the mechanical, it's really talking to people about how they're solving those problems. And where it really hit a spark for me was calculus-based physics. So in calculus, we stop talking about stationary things, and like Abbie's talking about money moving, cars moving, traffic moving, all of those rates of change. That's when the mathematics changes. That's when you get to calculus, and all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, everything moves. And so you have a light bulb that kind of goes off, and you can start linking it more to, springs and things like that. Like, how does the force in a spring change as the length of the spring is constrained? And then there's tons of other things that actually behave in the same manner, and you're applying the same mathematical principle. So I think I probably gave you a long answer, but for me, when the mathematics finally connected to the mechanical things and the stuff that I could put together and take apart, was when I saw calculus and physics, and then I could take those physics concepts and apply them in the real world. So hopefully I answered your question and contributed to the other question as well. That's what I was trying to do.
Thank you. And so you guys, we have about 5 more minutes. So I definitely want to make sure the students in attendance get their questions in, especially if you're struggling with your major, or you're not really sure, how to move forward with choosing a career path. These folks have been through their own experiences, so feel free to ask something related to that as well.
I guess I can ask a question. So when I do eventually graduate, for my example, I'm planning to get a master's in computer science at ODU. So when I get out, where do I start? Where would you recommend somebody like me start looking for internships, job opportunities, stuff like that?
Well,
So I think,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, I'll jump on this one since you're looking at the technology field. I would say that it all depends upon you. That if you, during your tenure as a student and go to get your master's, what are the other things that you're doing to support your career path? Are you involved in a specific club? Are you attending conferences that are relatable to that particular industry, to the career path that you want to choose? There's so many different disciplines in IT. You can get cybersecurity. You can actually become a computer engineer. You can get into computer management. So there's all sorts of career paths. You really have to just find out what you're passionate about, and then if you can get an internship, then that is a great way in the door, because people are able to get to know you. They get to trust you. They get to see what your skill sets are. That potentially could lead into a job. And then if it's not a job, it's experience that you've gained while you were there. It's just like Abbie said. Even if you didn't feel like your internship was a fantastic experience, you probably still learned something. So continue to learn. I'm 56 years old. I'm still learning every day. So education never stops, even though it may not be in a formal environment. You got to continue to learn, and you got to continue to expand your knowledge. So it's a challenge, but opportunities come, and you never know when an opportunity is going to present itself. So be prepared to really think about how you might be able to capitalize on an opportunity that comes your way.
I think the main point there is that you start before you graduate. You're not looking in industry. You don't graduate and then look into industry. You should, if you're planning to get a master's degree and you say that's approximately 6 years of education, you have, at least 3 or 4 good summers there to get an internship with companies and find out what you like. And, it's better to get an internship for 12 weeks and hate it than to go on and that's your first job and now you're stuck, right? So you can focus on parts of the industry that you like. And if you're getting a master's degree, you know, your coursework is going to start to funnel down as well. And you're going to be able to make some choices, especially for a thesis and things like that, that where you focus on those things that you like. So, you know, your master's would be in computer science in general, but your thesis would be on something very particular, and that would guide you into a place in industry that you could pair with internships as experience.
Yeah, Hunter, one other thing I want to share with you. There are two things that you need to be concerned about. It's time and money, right? So I don't want to discourage you from going on to get your master's, but there's a lot of technical jobs and, you know, and really well-paying jobs that don't require you to have a master's degree, you know, in my industry. You know, we're finding a lot of people that already have a skill set, you know, are being able to build on their experience, and that translates into real, you know, into an opportunity to get a job. So you really need to look at the return on investment for your time investment, as well as the amount of money that you're going to spend to get your master's, and make sure it's in alignment with what it is that your future goals are.
That's a great point. I mean, TCC has certification programs and also associate's degree programs that are designed for you to begin working right after in well-paid careers. But of course, pursuing more education could be beneficial as well. So yeah, do your research on that. Thank you.
Hi, excuse me. I have a question.
Sure, we have time for one or two more questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm graduating this semester and I'm planning to transfer to ODU for computer engineering. And my main question is that my main goal is to focus on is to get into VR engineering, because I really believe that VR is the future. But my main question is that, well, trying to strive for this goal is like the requirements. I feel that well, I look at like math and physics and all these topics that I feel that would be required to maybe get into this field. So my main question would be, how does one um focus or maybe realize that, oh, okay, I need to like calm down and like know that maybe this is too much and maybe I need to focus on just one thing and move forward with that.
So I think what you're kind of saying is that you're noticing that at the beginning of a degree program, the breadth of your subjects is fairly wide.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it's designed, right? To get you those prerequisites. So if you're going into computer engineering, you know, you're having to take different calculus and differential equations and things like that. And those are going to support the concepts in the higher level courses where you're going to be looking at, and I'm not a computer engineer. I do software development, but not hard computer engineering, but you know, they're going to kind of start to focus down. If you're talking about VR engineering, depending on what aspect of that you're talking about, modeling and simulation is a good fit for that as well. I'm not trying to steal you from the computer engineering department or anything.
It's okay.
And I am biased a little bit, but you know, you could do computer engineering with a minor in modeling and simulation, and that might help you funnel down. But an undergraduate degree is really meant to support a lot of things, and so the breadth stays fairly wide. Most of them will have a concentration in your senior year. Maybe you started in your junior year, but you've got to get those math classes and stuff like that under your belt. And there is computer engineering technology as well. If the math is something that is just you really like the more technical side of it, that's definitely something to explore. And again, I'm not advising you in any way or anything or trying to steal you. I'm just kind of talking about different options that I know are available at ODU.
Okay, thanks.
That's funny, Katie, because I was actually going to say, you know, you could do the computer with the minor mod sim, which I've actually seen a lot of people do, and they seem to enjoy it.
Yeah. We have lots of toys. I don't know what toys computer engineering has, but mod sim has lots. I mean, very expensive work equipment for professionals. We have lots of toys.
Yeah, I've been in there a few times and there is some crazy stuff. I will say, to answer the question, As you know, you go in and like you said, there is a wide range of topics you have to cover to get to the top of the tower. But I will say, as someone that's freshly out of college and has gone through it, that you need to make sure your foundation and your base is as strong as it possibly can be in order for you to build up on your knowledge and your experience. And when you do get to the point where you can narrow down a little bit more, that's when, you know, that the base that you built in those first couple years of college really comes into play, because now you have the understanding and you have the muscle memory, in a sense, on thinking through a process. I think that's probably, in my opinion, the number one reason why there are so many classes in college, honestly.
Thank you.
Right, you guys, it's 12:03. I just want to say quickly, thank you so much to the panel. This was amazing. And I hope you all were inspired, and your motivation is hopefully kicking in again as you pursue your goals. So thank you so much to Abbie, Katie, Martin, and Chris. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all that you do for our students.